I'm human, right? I get to a point where I'm just overwhelmed and I just want to take a break. For some of us, we get to that point of total burnout. We're uninspired, unmotivated, uninterested. In fact, we get to that point where we're considering taking another career path entirely and just dumping and giving up on voiceovers. So what I did personally was I entirely did not just attend to voiceover related activities. I listened to different types of podcasts that were not voiceover related. Kind of like I changed the things that I fed my mind with.
Hi, and welcome to the Everything Voiceovers Podcast. I'm Tcode, an African voiceover talent from Nigeria, and this is my podcast where I take on voiceover topics from an African perspective. In this episode, I talked about the real-life struggles African voiceover artists deal with while trying to keep their career alive. I shared my personal experience and how you can cope with yours. Sit back and enjoy this episode.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Everything Voiceovers Podcast, the African Perspective. It's Tcode here again, and this is another episode where we talk about voiceover related topics for voiceover artists in Africa. It's been about 2 weeks since I dropped an episode, and the reason why I took about 2 weeks to release another episode is very much attached or tied to this episode, because this episode is where I'm going to be talking about the reality of being a voiceover artist in Africa or in Nigeria, or just being a voiceover artist entirely. Although we have different experiences, probably based on where we are in terms of location or based on different factors like age, a couple of factors like that. But nonetheless, we all go through what I call pressures. Now, there's a lot that I wish to talk about, but then they come in different colors and different angles. So I just decided to term everything under the umbrella word pressure. Now, when I'm talking about pressure, it doesn't necessarily have to do with the pressure itself, because the truth is there are pressures that come from without, like outside, and then there are pressures that come from within. So I feel it is very important for us to talk about stuff like this, because if we don't talk about it, a lot of people may think and have the opinion that some voiceover artists just have it easy. Things are happening. You check social media and you see stuff that they're posting and you're like, oh wow, what's happening with me? What's happening with my voiceover career? You're struggling. You're really struggling to put out content. You're struggling to get gigs. You're struggling to, you're really struggling to put out demos or whatever it is to make your career work. And you feel left out. You feel alone. And you just check online and you see your colleagues, your peers, even people that are just coming into the industry. You see them doing stuff, putting things out there. Somebody just got a big gig, and you're wondering, where are you in this journey? I know for a fact that this description that I just gave is a description of what someone listening right now, probably you or some other person, is going through. And maybe every one of us at some point in our career have gone through this. If you haven't gone through it, you're probably still going to go through it. And it's that phase, it's that season where you're just feeling like you're lost and you're feeling like, what are you doing? Now, the truth is, it's not peculiar to people that are just starting in the industry. People that have been there for quite a while, they also experience this. You may call it different names. You may want to say it's burnout. You may want to say it's peer pressure. You may want to say it's the lack of tangible accomplishments, maybe in a short period of time or even in the long run. However, whatever you want to call it, I will term everything as pressures. So, I said this entire episode is tied to why I personally have not dropped an episode in the past 2 weeks. And the truth is that as much as I am passionate about the voiceover industry, I gave a Google there because people that know me know how passionate I can be about the voiceover industry. However, I also have my down moments. And recently I've been in that zone. And I feel like it's okay to be vulnerable sometimes, to talk about these things and just it's going to be comforting to someone going through such, or would later go through such and still listen to this podcast. And it also will help someone who is aspiring to come into the industry to know the possibilities or what to expect, or you don't feel odd, you don't feel alone when you start to experience stuff like this. And of course, it's a natural human phenomenon. There are ups and there are downs. But for the voiceover industry particularly, it's not an easy terrain. Let's start from there. It's not an easy terrain generally, in terms of we're voice actors globally. We all are struggling to get the same gig. We're auditioning. It's not like, well, I know there are certain people who may be on paid, like what I'll call maybe on salary. Probably you're working under an agency, or you're working for an organization, that you're working as a voiceover artist for an organization, and then they get to pay you monthly or something like that. That's some level of security. But if you look at it from the bigger picture, most voice actors don't have that level of security. And that's where the first pressure comes from, because we're all struggling and juggling to get gigs. We're auditioning for almost the same gig all the time. And one person out of hundreds, if not thousands, are going to get, or is going to get, that particular gig that you audition for. So it's a competitive field, even though in reality we don't give ourselves that attitude of competition. I think voice actors are also very friendly people, and it's a helpful community, if I must say. Nonetheless, in terms of the work itself, we're all trying to get the gigs, right? So because of how competitive it is, and it's not like you have all the many jobs that can go round to everyone. Some people are going to get the gigs, and the people that have to deal with rejection, you just have to deal with rejection. Now, we all have to deal with rejection, and that's something that I think you should prepare your mind towards. If you're thinking of coming into the voiceover industry, you have to be ready to face rejections. You have to be ready to chest no's. You're going to get a lot of no's. You're going to do more auditions than you even do voiceover jobs. After a while, when you keep getting no's and no's and no's, they tend to start affecting your mental health. And it is very, very important for you to, try to learn how to stay steady and focus on the career. This is just an example of what people go through when it comes to dealing with pressures, like I started with. So obviously, globally, we're all affected by the same challenge of getting rejected many times, because, like I explained, it's a very competitive market. But now, I want to even talk about specifically the African terrain, because, of course, for the general global voiceover industry, we have some, similar challenges. But when it comes to the African voiceover industry, I think the pressure is even worse. Well, that's how we call it here. It's just a slang. The pressure is much here because, one, the African voiceover terrain is of course we do voiceover jobs, right? But then you can't compare the amount of voiceovers that goes on in the US to what goes on here in Africa. The industry is still quite small, right? And so we're facing the challenge of having enough jobs to go around. And in the middle of that challenge is also the challenge of having enough jobs that are well-paying to go around. One might even argue that, well, there are a lot of jobs. It's arguable, depending on which sector you are, probably your country, or depending on whatever factors surround you. But we cannot deny the fact that there is still that struggle to get well-paying jobs. And why is this so? It's, of course, the obvious reasons that a lot of African countries have the economic challenges which is not unique to Africa, to be honest. But then we know that if you look at the purchasing power and if you look at the African economies around, we still have a lot of work to do, right? And these things trickle down to the voiceover artists and also to the clients that want to hire voiceover talents, because you now have more clients that are just small businesses and can't afford to pay what is being afforded or what is being paid by global companies, right? So, you have jobs that are going for very, very little amount of money. And what I'm saying right now, talking about it to someone who is not African may try to say, oh yeah, of course, even in the US and even every other places, you have companies, you have little businesses that are going to pay little for voiceover services. But the truth is that when you really bring it to the context of the African market and you compare whatever it is that you're going to be paid with that small job and you try to convert it to dollars, it sounds very ridiculous, right? So we're at a disadvantage for many reasons. We're at a disadvantage because we don't get enough jobs. We're at a disadvantage because we don't get enough well-paying jobs. And at the end of the day, you also have the many things to deal with. You also have the challenge of power supply. If you're in a country like Nigeria, that 24 hours electricity is like a daydream. You have the challenge of power supply. You have the challenge of trying to be in a serene environment. Well, this is not unique to Africa, but if you're in a place like Lagos, if you live in a place like Lagos, Lagos is a very, very rowdy place. And guess what? Lagos is like the base. It's like the New York or the Los Angeles of Nigeria. And of course, this does not mirror the reality for every other African country or states. But, I'm speaking based on experience. I'm speaking based on my own unique experience, and because I'm a Nigerian and I live in Nigeria. So there are many factors that makes being a voiceover artist tedious, very challenging, very stressful. And then at the end of the day, you realize very soon that it is not a job for the weak. Still talking about the challenges that we face that are peculiar to us, if you consider the fact that the earning rates of the average voiceover artist in Africa is very low, and then you're looking at that average voiceover artist trying to meet up with global specs and expectations, like trying to get himself or herself a home studio, trying to get the quality equipment, the person will have to work maybe twice as hard, obviously twice as hard as his Western counterpart. Now, I'm not saying that people in the US or in other Western countries are having it easy. I'm just trying to explain what the unique African experience is. So it's a lot of hurdles that you have to climb, a lot of challenges that you have to face to stabilize your career. And then your career is still dealing with the insecurity of not knowing when the next job comes in, right? Now, I know it's sounding all gloom, but guess what? People still do voiceover as a business, as a full-time job, and they're doing it well. So the purpose of this episode is not to make you see all of the gloom and feel defeated and discouraged. I have to put that out there. The purpose of this is to let you see the reality of what you're doing. And I'm also doing this episode to let you see that you're not alone in this, and you deserve a thumbs up. You deserve a pat on the back. You deserve to be celebrated. If you've come this far, you have actually done a lot. I don't know what level or what stage you are in your career yet, but I want to say kudos to you for taking that brave decision to say you want to become a voiceover artist in Africa. Now, you're still battling with getting gigs. You're still battling with keeping the business afloat. And then you go on social media and then you see your colleagues winning, in quotes, or so you think. Now, does that mean that someone who is successful or someone who has an accomplishment shouldn't celebrate his or her success? No, we should actually celebrate with the person. But the truth is that as humans that we are, especially if you've been putting in the energy for a long time and you're not getting a lot of reward, it starts to create some type of feeling in you, not of envy, but of, am I doing something wrong? What's going on, right? So this pressure is not even peculiar to Africans. It's general, right? So like this is another type of pressure, the social media pressure, the idea or the notion that people are winning and you are not, or they are doing a lot and you're just left there isolated. So that's another type of pressure. And then you also have the other pressures that come from just existing and being a human being, right? People have different issues going on in their lives at different times, financial needs, maybe family issues and stuff like that. And all of these things, they affect your career. So the purpose of this episode is to let you know that the pressure is real and you're not in this alone, and you deserve to be celebrated. You deserve to be patted in the back. Truth is, of course, there's still a lot of work to be done. There's still a lot that you can accomplish. There's still a lot of efforts that you can put into your business to make it work. Sometimes the shortcoming in your business is probably because there's something you're not doing or there's something you're doing wrong. However, it's safe to know that if you're committed to this, you'll figure it out with time. We all started voiceovers not knowing it entirely. We all made our mistakes. If I listen to stuff that I've done years ago, I can see remarkable differences in maybe it's my production quality or even my delivery, my performance. So there's a lot of grounds that you need to gain. But the point is, don't be too hard on yourself. You're trying. Be honest with yourself and also take into account that you are putting in the work. Sometimes it's also okay to take a break. Like I had to take a break from podcasting for an entire week, which means like that particular week I didn't drop an episode, and here we are with another episode. So I had to take a break because there was just a lot going on in my personal life, and even for my voiceover career, there was just a lot that I was putting into. I had to count. More like I was taking a stock of many things happening, right? And I'm human, right? I get to a point where I'm just overwhelmed and I just want to take a break because, like I told somebody, I said, I had to take a break before I break everything. So it's okay to take a break sometimes, but get back on track. And now there's some people who they're listening to this podcast and they're probably in the category of those who were very, very enthusiastic about the voiceover industry. You have the gift, or you have the gift. You probably even went to learn voiceover from a training academy or something, or you are planning to do so. But okay, let's talk about those who went to learn. There's a large population of people who who attended voiceover trainings, but after the voiceover training, it's just as though their career took a halt. And this happens for many reasons. For some people, it's because they're not doing voiceovers full time, so they have their part-time job. They have their full-time job, and then voiceover is more like a part-time. Now, if you consider all of the struggles that I talked about earlier, if you consider all of that and you put those struggles on someone who is doing voiceover as part-time, you'd then understand why it feels like their career is taking a very slow progression, right? So because even those of us who do it full time, by the way, this month makes it 2 years since I stopped working on radio and decided to sit with voiceover and do it full time. So I am speaking from at least 2 years of experience, and I've done voiceover part time before. So I'm saying that the pressure is real, and these are some of the reasons why your voiceover career might just be taking a very slow progression. I shouldn't end this episode without giving some sort of like what to do. Like, what should you do when you find yourself in those moments, right? What are you supposed to do next? Well, firstly, like I said, it's okay to take a break before you break, right? Before you lose it all, before you burn out. It's okay to chill, to wait a minute. It's okay to, just relax, right? For some of us, we get to that point of total burnout and we're not just able to continue anymore. We're uninspired, unmotivated, uninterested. In fact, we get to that point where we're considering taking another career path entirely and just dumping and giving up on voiceovers. Some people have given up on voiceovers before, but guess what? They're back into the business. Not because whatever they're doing isn't paying, but the passion is just there and they're not going to let it go waste, right? And the talent is there as well. The point is that it's okay to take a break, but ensure that while you're taking a break, you are also trying not to hate your career and hate what you're doing, but rather trying to gather energy. Sometimes it's okay not to even think about voiceovers, because for someone like me, my life is almost entirely built on voiceovers. So sometimes it's okay that what I need is a vacation and I'm not thinking about voiceovers. I'm doing something different. So what I did personally was I entirely did not just attend to voiceover related activities. I listened to different types of podcasts that were not voiceover related. Kind of like I changed my location. I mean, not location particularly, but I changed the things that I fed my mind with. Just tried things that are very new, things that are not the usual, right? Because my brain had gotten to a point of fatigue. So I needed to stimulate my interests with new stuff and not just the same old things that I'm recycling, right? So it's okay to try new things. Also, it's okay to try new methods in your career, in your voiceover career. If you're not the type that listens to podcasts, well, yeah, you can try listening to podcasts now. If you're not the type that takes auditions, well, you can try auditioning now. If you're not the type that collaborates, you can try collaborating now. The point is, you're going to find somebody, you're going to find something else that will spark that interest in you. And that thing that's going to spark that interest in you is probably not you. You get me? So you need to try your hands on different things. You're probably going to have to watch a movie, a voiceover related movie. I think that, yeah. Right now, I can't remember the name of the movie. I think the name of the movie is In a World. Yes. So maybe if you watch that movie, it's going to inspire you to, get back. For those who have watched it before, you can still go back to it. In a World, I think, yeah, it was based on the life of... Okay, before I say something that is not there now, I should just get back to track. So that's a voiceover related movie. You can try buying a voiceover book and reading that. That's if you want to try other things in the voiceover sphere, and if you want to go entirely off axis just to try to find inspirations elsewhere, what would probably prick your interest. For instance, for me, as a creative, I do things. I mean, I could go on YouTube and watch content creators. I have some particular content creators that when I watch their stuff, I just love the energy and I am able to tap into that energy. For some people, when I watch their stuff, the kind of energy that I tap into is the energy of excellence. For some people, it's the energy of quality, right? For some people, it's the energy of this person is young and vibrant. So when I want to wake up that young and vibrant side of me, I know the kind of content creators to check out for and just look at their content and I get motivated, right? So I have a list of people that I, get inspired from their works. They are fellow creatives. Some of them are celebrities. There's sometimes that I just go and look at some particular music videos and they just kind of inspire me. So find different ways to get inspiration. It doesn't have to be in your studio. It doesn't have to be you doing the same old thing over and over and over again, Remember, we're talking about, dealing with pressures and dealing with burnouts. It's okay sometimes to just shut the window. Shut the window on all the noise or all the happenings in your industry and just look elsewhere. Watch a movie, go out, take a vacation, right? And all of that. I think one other thing that I did not talk about when I was talking about pressure is also the reality of being a full-time voiceover artist. I was talking to a colleague over the week, and one of the things that both of us were able to agree that is a challenge for us, because she's also a full-time, I'm also a full-time voiceover artist, is that we realized that naturally we're introverts, but the downside is we're so introverted that because the work we do is from home, we tend to have a very not so good social life. Do you get? So we don't go out, we just don't have the regular human interaction, on the same scale as people who work and do 9 to 5, because we don't have colleagues that we're talking to physically, right? Most of our activities are just virtual. I have to be very honest, this is personally for me like one of my biggest challenges, like really, really one of my biggest challenges. And I have to consciously take myself out of my house and interact with people. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to start gymming. Physically, I'm fit, but then I made it important or necessary that I enrolled in a gym just to ensure that I have other people that I could interact with on a daily basis. And on Saturdays, at least twice a month, I try to hang out. So I think incorporating a little bit of going out, taking a walk, gymming, attending functions, these will help us as voiceover artists. I know a friend who his own type of trying to socialize is via Clubhouse. I see him on Clubhouse many times. He knows himself. He's probably listening right now. And, he's just hopping from one room to another. And when he gets to another room, the topic is probably different. And the kind of people there, they're probably different based on, the topic or based on what the room is all about. So at the end of the day, he has interacted with different people from different places, discussing different things that are not just specifically based on voiceovers. So they're talking politics or religion or talking social stuff, life generally. The point of this entire podcast is to let you see that, hey man, you're trying. Don't be too hard on yourself. Whatever you think you're going through, it's not peculiar to you. And even if it's peculiar to you, cut yourself some slack. Like, don't be too hard on yourself. You're going to, with time, overcome those challenges. It's just a matter of time. Stay there. You can take a break, right? But when I say stay there, I mean don't give up. You're probably on the verge of giving up on your voiceover career. I'm telling you, please don't give up. You can take a break. It's fine. And it's okay to, I saw a quote that said it's okay to take a break and come back when you found yourself again, right? So it's okay, right? It's okay. Also, try to incorporate new stuff and different things into your career. Don't stay indoors, like stay in your studio all day long. I understand the realities of, trying to get gigs and maybe you're not getting the kind of financial reward that you're expecting. You can keep trying, and you don't also have to stay 100% in the voiceover circle when it comes to making ends meet. You can get other skills that are related. For instance, I do voiceovers. I also do video editing, audio production. So these are skills that are similar to what I do, and I also get paid from those other skills, right? So you can consider that you're probably good in scripting, or you're good, you can write. Explore those things, explore them, and stay. Don't go anywhere. hang on. We need you in the industry, and it's going to be better. All right. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Everything Voiceovers Podcast, the African Perspective. I want to believe that you've learned a couple of things from the things that I've said today, and you have been inspired or motivated to keep going. At least I know that I have been inspired and motivated, and I'm glad that I am back. And, I can't wait to hear the next episode. I'll just keep looking for the next inspiration, and then we come and we do the next episode. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening, and see you next week. Till then, I would say keep voicing and keep learning. Bye for now.
If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, leave a comment, and tell someone about it. Follow the podcast on Everything Voiceovers on all social media platforms. Thanks for listening, and see you on the next episode. This podcast is a Coded Voiceovers production.